Holy sh**. Welcome back to Cooking the States, a series where we cook a famous dish from a different state in every episode in an attempt to get to the bottom of the true identity of American food. If a donut in a funnel cake had a baby, it would be a beignet. This centuries-old Louisiana tradition is the perfect treat or breakfast if you're into that sort of thing. No judgment. Maybe a little judgment. Believe it or not, the beignet was actually brought over by French-acadians, who would later become known as Cajuns, after they were forced to bounce from their home in the northeastern part of North America down to Louisiana. Though the beignet did not originate here in the States over the past century or two, or three, the delectable treat has certainly morphed into something that's distinctly American, more specifically distinctly New Orleans. Or as the kids like to say, NOLA. The most famous spot to grab yourself a beignet in New Orleans has got to be Cafe Du Monde. If you've been to NOLA, you've probably been to Cafe Du Monde. It's like seeing the Statue of Liberty in New York. You gotta go once. Well, I'm not gonna claim to be able to recreate that magical moment of sipping some coffee overlooking the mighty Mississippi River. I can promise you a very simple recipe and beignet technique that will hopefully bring a little bit of that NOLA energy to your crib. Start by pouring 125 grams of whole milk, 190 grams of water, and 10 grams of sugar in a medium saucepan. Bring the mixture up on low heat to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, then pour it all into the bowl of a stand mixer, adding in your 10 grams of active dry yeast. Let the yeast activate for 5 minutes, or until you really see ample bubble action. Then it's in with 2 whole eggs and 30 grams of vegetable shortening. Secure a bowl on the stand mixer with the dough hook attached and turn it to low speed. Meanwhile, we're going to sift together 476 grams of bread flour and the remaining 60 grams of sugar, 4 grams of kosher salt, those two were mixed together, then 2.5 grams of this secret ingredient. This is called diastatic malt powder, and it contains an enzyme called amylase, which basically consumes starches and releases sugars. I know it sounds complicated, but all you need to know is that it helps your beignets brown a little better, it gives them a stronger rise and a bit of a lighter texture. It's optional, but I highly recommend it. You can pick this up online, it's pretty cheap. Now just sift all that dry good together. Spoonful by spoonful, begin adding the dry ingredients to the stand mixer with the speed still on low. Make sure it's on low. If you go too high, this stuff's gonna spray everywhere. Trust me, I've been there. Once all of the flour mixture is in, crank the speed up to medium-high and knead the dough until it's smooth and elastic, which will take, roughly 15 to 20 minutes. You'll know when the dough is ready when it can pass the window test, or in other words, when light easily passes through the dough when it's stretched without tearing. Lube up the bowl of the stand mixer oh so slightly, then plop that dough right on top, cover with plastic wrap, and let rest in a warm place until doubled in size, which will take, about an hour or so. While that rests, we are going to do a little extra credit and make a custard filling for our beignets, which starts with this stuff. Vanilla is worth talking about because it can be very expensive. Couple things you gotta know. So this is vanilla extract, you know it, you love it. This is vanilla paste. I personally think this is a little more flavorful. When you're talking about conversions, you can use 1 tablespoon of this to 1 tablespoon of this, so it's the same thing. But in my experience, and I know it's expensive, but if you can get your hands on the real deal vanilla bean pod, it's pretty much always preferred. To extract the flavor from the bean, slit it down the length of the pod, then use your knife to scrape out the insides. This is what's going to give our custard most of its flavor and the classic speckled appearance that comes from using real vanilla beans. To a large saucepan over medium-low heat, pour in 2 cups of whole milk, followed by both the vanilla bean insides and the empty pod. Gently warm the mixture up until it just begins to steam, then cut the heat and let the milk steep for 15 to 20 minutes. Meanwhile, to a large bowl, whisk together half a cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons cornstarch, and a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. Once mixed, dump in 4 egg yolks and whisk vigorously until the mixture is smooth and the sugar is fully dissolved. Now I'm a real cook. Got my tweezers up. By now our milk should be fully infused, so go ahead and remove that vanilla bean pod. Then pour the infused milk directly into the egg yolk mixture while whisking until very smooth. Set an ice bath up large enough to fit the saucepan that you're using right inside of it. Pour the entire mixture back into the saucepan and bring the custard base up to temperature on medium heat. It's very important that you whisk vigorously here. Why? Because we don't want scrambled eggs in our custard. After a few minutes on the heat, you're going to notice the mixture is going to get a lot thicker. This happens very fast, so keep an eye on it. Once it thickens to this point, remove it from the heat and transfer to the ice bath. Continue whisking until the custard is cooled down and stops steaming. At this point, we can transfer the custard to a piping bag or a Ziploc bag if you don't have a piping bag. Just make sure a small tip is attached. I'm using a star tip here. Then keep this in the fridge until we need it later on. Preheat some neutral oil to 350 degrees Fahrenheit.
Don't cross the streams.
By now, our beignet dough should be ready to go. Dust a clean work surface with a little flour and turn out the dough. Shape the dough into an even 12-inch square that's about half an inch thick. Then use a pizza wheel to slice even 2-inch squares into the dough. If you're a little OCD like me, go ahead and use your pizza cutter to trim off some of that excess dough to stop that rounded shape and kind of keep things sharper. Add as many beignets that can fit into the pan without overcrowding things, then fry for a few minutes on both sides until deeply GB. Golden brown. The key word here is deeply. This is where, if you use the diastatic malt powder, you're really gonna notice a difference in color. So when I sliced those up before, they were a little on the larger side, right? Kind of look like actual donuts, not beignets. This is kind of more so what we're going for. Large, small. This is kind of like more the legit size. So what I've kind of done here is I've shaved off some of the larger pieces to make them appropriately small, and I took all that extra dough and just kind of like pressed it back out. So now I can take my pizza roller and kind of square it off again and make appropriately sized beignets so that this dough doesn't go to waste. The beignets will puff up a bit while frying, which is totally normal. Continue frying the beignets until you work through the entire batch of dough, making sure to drain the finished ones on a wire rack. And I should probably mention, I'm not filling all these beignets with the custard. If you want to do that, you're gonna have to triple the batch of custard. Before filling the beignet with custard, I like to make a little pre-puncture on the side of the beignet with a paring knife just to ensure an easy injection. And if you got nervous for a second, don't you worry, I did not forget the powdered sugs. Alright, let's see what the inside of one of these custard boys looks like. Those VBs, wow, beautiful vanilla beans. Look at that. And don't be scared to really crush these guys with powdered sugar. Like, dust on a disturbing amount of powdered sugar. It's okay if it's caked on a 1/4 inch. These beignets really aren't that sweet, and the powdered sugar is a big part of their identity. Holy shit. Serve these boyos with piping hot black coffee. Brownie points if it's chicory coffee, which is what they serve at Cafe Du Monde. This is the final result, a slightly chewy, light, and airy pastry that will make you want to move to New Orleans. And no, it's not a donut, it's not a funnel cake, it's a beignet. Dang. I like never put sugar in my coffee. If you've been watching for a while now, you know I don't have the biggest sweet tooth, but these are special. I'm glad we made them. Beignets are delicious. If you are looking for a gumbo or jambalaya recipe, I got you, don't worry. We actually did a video on that a few months back. I'll link it somewhere for y'alls. Next up, we're heading to the East Coast, to the wonderful state of Maine. If you think you know what we're gonna make, comment it below. It's pretty obvious, I think. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Join the Omnivore Nation. Like the video if you dug it, and I shall see you in the next episode. Au revoir.